Welcome to another Prismium instructional video. Today we're going to talk about the end access of a SingleSmart cable. So that is our 12 fibre or 24 fibre single tube cable. This process applies to SingleSmart and SingleSmart Plus. The tools that are required for the SingleSmart end access is a tape measure to measure the mark to where the sheath is going to be cut back to, a marker to indicate where that position is, a swivel tool to make longitudinal cuts and a test cut to get access to the ripcords, cutters, scissors to cut away the ripcords. We've got a large peg cutting tool, and that's to score the make a circular cut on the mark made at on the cable sheath. And we also have a small peg tool as well to strip the tube, and then we have side cutters and pliers. So the beginning of the process is to make a mark up the cable from the cable end. It needs to be a suitable length to fit within the connectivity item that you're going to be splicing to. For the purposes of this video, we're going to approximate about 2 meters. We're going to make a mark on the cable sheath, like so. The first step in the process is to use this circular cutting peg tool to make a circular cut just around the sheath here. So you want to rest the blade onto the cable sheath and then apply a light amount of pressure and rotate the peg tool around the cable sheath. We don't want to clamp down too hard because we don't want to penetrate all the way through the sheath. This is just going to act as a guide for when we use the rip cords to cut back to. So about there's enough. The next part in the procedure is to do a couple of test cuts and also to expose the rip cords within the cable. So we're going to use our swivel tool here to make those cuts. Go down approximately 200 millimeters from the end of the cable. Apply thumb pressure on one side of the tool and pull to the cable end. Do the same process, but on the other side of the cable. You want to try and make them 180 degrees apart if you can. So inspect the cable sheath, and you just want to see if the blade is cut all the way through. In this instance, it looks like it has. So we're just going to use side cutters to just open the end up of the cable to split the two sheaths. We can use pliers to pull the sheath back. You can see one ripcord already. Complete the same process on the other side. I'm just going to pull this ripcord out to my right hand side, because the two ripcords are actually placed on opposite sides within the cable, but because of the compression of the cable, sometimes they can be more centered towards the center. So it may be hard to distinguish which one's the left hand ripcord and which one's the right hand ripcord. But these have come out quite nicely. You can see the other ripcord is on my left hand side there. So I'm just going to pull that out, and you may need pliers just to get the ripcord out there. And I'll just pull that to that side there. So you can just use the ripcords and go from there and pull all the way back to the mark. What's an easier step is actually if you use this swivel blade tool again, just to penetrate the cable sheath. This process is good because it's probably easier to get the two cuts opposite each other when you're using this tool very slowly. If you use the ripcord, sometimes they can, start to preference to one side. So if we make 2 cuts using this tool, we don't need to go all the way through to fully breach the sheath. We just want to do a light cut like this, applying a light amount of pressure all the way through. We want to do the same thing on the opposite side. Try and do this slowly so that the cut that you're making is as opposite as it can be to the first cut that you made. And cut back to the 2 slits that you made previously. So now we identify which ripcord is which by just pulling them out like this. So the ripcords are the standard ripcords that are used in loose tube smart core, so they're quite strong. It's important to guide those ripcords through the slit that you've already made, and that'll make this next step actually much easier. So I can just run the ripcord all the way back to the end, and I'll apply the same process for the second ripcord. So following the cut that I made earlier, try and keep them as evenly apart as you can, because that'll make the next step much easier. So we've put the ripcords all the way back to the mark. Now we want to remove the GRP from the sheath and also the tube from the sheath. So the GRP, you can just separate them out, pull it back. To here, and just use side cutters to cut that section away. I'm going to cut the GRP now to get it out of the way. Cut it to the appropriate length of the connectivity item that you're terminating into. Usually about 40 or 60 millimeters is enough. I'll cut about 100 just to be safe. Now that we've removed cut the GRP and removed it from the sheath, the next important step is actually removing the tube from the sheath. Because of the nature of the cable, we apply tight compression of the sheath around the GRP and the tube. So the GRP can be quite embedded in the tube, and it's important to remove it correctly to avoid kinking the tube. So what seems to work well is if you just apply your thumb underneath the tube and apply a little bit of back tension to the tube itself, and then just run it along like so to remove it from the sheath. So just go slowly. The back tension helps so that it keeps the tube relatively straight. Just go slowly. Just rotate the cable. All the way back to the mark, and you can usually just break the sheath away, cut away the rip cords, And that's the process complete. Got enough length of tube there to terminate. Once you've done it a few times, it does actually get quite quick and can be actually easier than traditional smart core because there's no tapes and yarns to cut away. Thank you.